Hey everyone, and welcome to Comedians on Technology, People. Drugs. I'm your host, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have comedian Samuel Day with us. Hey Samuel, it's really great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for sharing your time.
Hey, how you doing, mate? You good?
I am much better than I was last week, which is, yeah, today, goodness. I'm quite relieved actually that Christmas is over, and to be talking to a very funny person like yourself. Let's jump in because I know, we could chit and chat, but I know the audience will be like screaming and gnashing their teeth, demanding to hear your comedy origin story. I mean, was it that you were a gardener for a sort of a rich young hobbit who inherited a magic ring from his uncle, and then you were forced to travel with him to Mordor, and it was your stand-up that finally melted the ring in front of the cracks of doom? Or how did it all kick off?
Now you're saying Lord of the Rings. I think more like the Muppet movie, if I had to put it to a film. It's nothing like that. But apart from the fact that I am green and all fuzzy over, and look just like a frog. But no.
Yeah.
How did it all start then? Well, basically, it was one of those things I was always interested in doing, always interested. But I was very much a radio person to begin with, and
Okay.
that was my dream to begin with. So I
Mm.
really wanted to be a radio presenter, present on radio on all sorts of things. And
Mm.
I did drama at university in Norwich, at the University of East Anglia. And people said, "Oh, you can act well and stuff." And I was kind of pursuing that. And then I found the student radio station there at UEA, and then I was absolutely obsessed with it. There's something
Mm.
that radio does, like when you present radio shows. I know you're presenting a podcast now. The way it just takes a hold of you and makes you become absolutely obsessed with it.
Mm.
That's what it was like at the student radio station. It was called Livewire. I did it on my own to begin with, and then I got my mate Bilal to kind of be my co-host. But essentially, I was just telling him what to say. I was like, right, I've
Mm.
got this really cool thing planned here. Why don't you do that bit, do that? And yeah, so I did loads of student radio. Um, and weirdly, I didn't really know how to do it. So
Mm.
radio features were kind of in the format of comedy skits, really. I didn't
Oh yeah.
really realize I was doing it, but I was doing kind of bits of comedy in between songs, a bit kind of quite surrealist stuff. And the longer I went on, the more I learned about radio and the more like a radio show it went, but it still had that flavor.
Mm.
And then I was like, right, I really need to get on this industry. And luckily in Norwich, there's a community station called Future Radio, which I moved on to. And then there was this thing called BBC Voices, which let you volunteer for the BBC introducing new music show and all sorts. So I did all of that, which was fun, incredibly stressful trying to keep the bills paid and stuff.
Mm.
But I essentially stayed in Norwich for just under 10 years doing
Mm.
all of that really. And I got a job at Radio Norfolk, the local station, doing all sorts of stuff like sport and then mainly it was the afternoon show. I was like the
Okay.
producer of
Mm.
um with this presenter called Stephen Bumphrey, who's absolutely brilliant,
Mm.
absolute class acts, really slick DJ, but also good with his gags as well, really good with one-liners and knowing how comedy works as well. So
Right.
kind of worked hand in hand. I did on-air bits with him. And then after all of that, after you know, I'm really kind of summarizing it here because so much happens. I think it was around after COVID time that local radio stations basically they had to be cut a bit. So
Ah.
there were going to be less local shows, more regional shows. So rather than just in Norfolk, they're in like Norfolk, Suffolk, and Cambridgeshire, and basically the afternoon show. That my job wasn't going to exist anymore.
Ah.
So it wasn't a redundancy as such, but it was just kind of they were reshaping the whole of
Restructuring.
the local radio sphere, and that's exactly the way the industry is going. And
Mm.
I think podcasts are booming and doing really well, but radio, I think, is clinging on a
Mm.
bit, and it's such a
Mm.
precious medium. So I hope it survives as long as possible, really, and
Mm.
forevermore because it's absolutely a beautiful medium. But that was what happened, and I had this incredible creative job with the afternoon show at Radio Norfolk, and I still work for them. It's still a brilliant station to work for, but I was like, oh God, I really want to do something super fun now
Okay.
because I'm going through this big life change. And every Friday on
Mm.
that afternoon show, we always got a comedian on, an upcoming
Mm.
comedian, not like a famous comedian,
Mm. Mm.
but like an open mic night comedian, upcoming a new comedian, an established one that was doing it from Norwich. So I worked with the guys at Humour Comedy in Norwich,
Oh yeah.
Martin Westgate and co, and they set us up with a guest every Friday afternoon,
Mm.
which is and then maybe for really cool radio, not just necessarily chatting to these famous stars, which we also did on the afternoon show, but getting Steve and Shan when I covered the show as well, chatting to all of these brilliant comedians, like Tom Alban, Christopher Norton Walker, Aaron Levine, just to name. I'm just going to name three.
Sure.
So
Sure.
otherwise, I'll be
Mm.
absolutely everywhere and stuff. But and yeah, that was brilliant. And so it was all about comedians from Norwich and comedians coming to Norwich to gig and stuff like that.
Right.
And I really liked it. And I got a bit of a bug for it. And the more and more you do radio, the more you realize it's completely, well, it goes hand in hand with comedy, but it is a different thing.
Mm.
And the more and more I was kind of surrounded by the comedy in Norwich scene, the more I went to gigs and became interested about it. And that moment of okay, big change in my life. I'm just going to try it. There was this workshop, this kind of comedy course which
Oh.
Martin Westgate was doing for Humour Comedy in Norwich, and
Mm.
I bit the bullet, and then I went for it. Now this is a bit Batman, actually, talking about origin story
Yeah, go for it.
a bit because um it was raining so hard. And I had a horrible cold. The conditions were dark and dank, and it was the first kind of comedy course, so it took a real lot of guts to get there.
Yeah.
And I could have just said, I'm too ill to do this, I can't go. And it was absolutely backing it down. But I went and I took a bit of shelter, thinking, what on earth am I doing? Because I had this 5 minutes of material
Yeah.
that obviously I had no idea what was funny at that point, no
Mm.
idea. But I went there, and I sat there feeling really ill with my man flu, and
Worse than
uh,
childbirth, I hear. But yeah.
exactly. And we were all sat around this table, and the rest of us were people who hadn't done comedy before, and we kind of just went straight into it. And I did it, and I thought, okay, I'm not, instantly a professional. You're never going to be. But I think when you start something for the first time, you're like, oh, I've got to be brilliant, or
Mm.
otherwise I'm terrible. And there's no kind of in
Mm.
between. But there
Mm.
was an in between. And 4 weeks passed, and I got used to it. I remember the second week in, for some reason, I kept on burping before I was going to um, come up and try my stuff out with other people in the course. But I pushed through it, and then the showcase came. It was on a November the 9th, 2023. Yeah, 2023. And
Mhm.
after it went well. And as they're very supportive nights, your
Yeah.
first gig nights at the end of courses, aren't they? But Martin was like, you're going to carry on? And I was like, yeah, might as well. And then I just kept looking for gigs, and he did teach us as part of the course how to find gigs and all sorts. And I got quite a few local gigs, and then I went to London a bit more, and it seemed really, really nuts actually when you go to London for the first time from Norwich, because you're like, hang on a minute, I'm going all the way from Norwich to do a 5 minute set where
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah.
but it's what I did. And sometimes you bring your dad along for the first time, then bring your mum along the first time, as like these bringers for these London gigs that you have to do. And um you do all sorts of that, and then before you know it, it's 2 years in, and it's just like second nature really.
Mm. Mm.
And thus is my kind of Batman slash Muppet movie origin story.
Yeah, well, I'm just so glad that your mum and dad weren't shot by a street thug and they were there for the bringers thing, because that
Oh
obviously,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Not that bit.
if Batman had had his parents, he could have cracked the open mic scene, and then the Joker would have had a run for his money. But
Right. Oh,
yeah,
but I'm the Joker in the situation, yeah.
good stuff, man.
Or
You go on.
having said that, mate. Sorry, yeah. The film Joker, with what's his name, Joaquin
Joaquin
Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah.
Yeah, he does a bit of stand up, doesn't he?
He
And when
does.
I was considering, oh, should I do stand up or not? I saw that scene where he goes on stage, does a bit of stand up, and no one laughs. And I think,
Right.
oh no, if that happens to me, and am I going to become a supervillain like that? It's just
It's one career option, I think it's it's always open to the best of us. Wow. I mean, what an amazing story. There's so many different things I want to touch on in there. I guess you started right at the beginning saying that you were always kind of a comedy curious, or you were always interested. Was I guess growing up you were seeing stand up on the television, or you were sort of aware of it as a thing, and you were always that looks fun. All but your main passion was radio. I mean, tell us more about your early encounters with stand-up. Was it just from the television, or how did it go?
yeah. Well, I think it's a weird one really because you think about how comedy is consumed nowadays, completely different to how it was consumed when I was growing up. So I'm a millennial, so I was
Mm,
growing up during, I was really, really young in the 90s, and then kind of the noughties was where I was at, the main crux of the school career and stuff. So that
mm,
was,
mm.
where you kind of discover these wonderful comedy greats for the first time, and they come through the form of comedy DVDs,
Mm.
and if they're really old, comedy tape videos. I remember seeing the cover of Eddie Izzard's Dressed to Kill
Oh yeah.
on a VHS. And I was
Hmm.
really young. I thought, what is that? What is an Eddie Izzard Dressed to Kill? And
Yes.
later on in childhood, obviously, mum watches it when you're old enough, and then you think, oh, this is brilliant. That's not what I expected. That's great. And then you get Christmas presents, like comedy DVDs were brilliant Christmas presents, weren't they? I
Mm.
got Lee Evans,
Hmm.
Peter Kay, Top of the Tower, all sorts. I think I've got some. Was it Dave Allen? Dave
Yeah.
Allen.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was in black and white. So as a impatient young kid, I didn't watch too much of that, but maybe I
Hmm.
should go back to it. Or, well, I probably can't watch the VHS/DVD now, but I can
It's getting
go
tricky.
on.
It's getting tricky, isn't it? Yes. Yes. Although I
But
mean, go on.
comedy DVDs, the source of kind of looking in comedy and stuff in the TV as well, like
Yes.
Mitchell and Webb on Thursdays Are Funny and BBC Two,
Hmm.
and all of the kind of sitcoms that are about, extras was huge when I was about. People were quoting extras loads at school as well. So you get that grounding from DVDs and TV shows when
Yeah.
that is completely in its heyday. When nowadays you can just look on TikTok and find some stand-up comedy, but you get kind of different types. I wasn't really exposed that much to live comedy
No.
that much. That's my
Mm.
kind of one regret, that I didn't go to enough um comedy clubs and watch live comedy
Mm.
when I was growing up, really,
Mm.
because it's a real hidden gem. It's a real treat, isn't it? It's often, yeah,
No,
brilliant.
it's a but it's really interesting hearing about your experience there with the TV. And I kind of grew up in the like my 80s. I was young in the 70s, and so like I mean I definitely like when I was growing up in the 80s, we were just starting to get VHSs. Like that was a like I don't know 1995, 36. Other families have gone. Oh, now we've got a V8. Oh, we can record things off the telly. Oh, we can start to hire movies. That was a totally new thing. And I think at that time, I mean, for me, the exposure to like sort of, or at least comedy in front of an audience was more like kind of on the television, Little and Large, Cannon and Ball,
Yeah,
Morecambe and Wise. These sort of like almost old school acts. But I remember Dave Allen being on the television, Jasper Carrot
yeah,
being on
yeah,
the television, and just doing this kind of storytelling, which was like and getting laughs, which was just sort of like, wow, this is a amazing, amazing thing. And I think, yeah, I mean, I just, remember seeing, have I seen Eddie Izzard when I first tried comedy at 21? But when I first sort of tried it and it didn't kind of work, I was sort of convinced that, as I've said many times on the podcast before, that that I was kind of convinced, oh, only sort of a special person with a special skill can do this. And
yeah.
so, it looks great, but I guess it's only open to a few people, which is a bit, you were sort of like, you're just talking about there in doing the course, brilliant versus terrible. I mean, actually, it is something that you can learn and get better at over time. It sounds like you're always interested in comedy. You never sort of saw it as a route that you might take. You were just like, oh, that's a fun thing. Aren't they great? They're wonderful. And then it was the radio that you got excited about at. And that was particularly, I mean, it's funny because we're back in the day. I mean, before my time, radio was the main thing, right? And television was
Yeah.
this new upstart. And I mean, radio was huge, and that was what it was all about. You were sort of saying when you started doing radio and like being a radio presenter, it sort of you found it sort of took you over, and I was. I guess that you meant the process of actually presenting the radio and actually being there and broadcasting live, that was giving you a kind of high and excitement that was like that was the main, more because you were doing the drama at universities, which would presumably
Yeah.
involve some
So
live performance, but you were like, oh, this radio thing, that's kind of like giving me more juice than, whatever other
yeah.
things were in the drama course.
And when I say they're two different things, they still absolutely go hand in hand. And
Mm.
I think there were kind of two more huge influences in terms of comedy and radio.
Mm.
Also identity as well. Like going back to comedy DVDs quickly, my brother got me the Mighty Boosh live DVD. So I hadn't
Right.
listened to the radio series. I hadn't actually watched the TV show, but I
Mm.
watched the live show DVD of it
Right.
first, and that was kind of exposed me to that kind of surrealist, wonderful kind of character thing that my identity growing up really kind of connected with. I
Uh,
love that kind of surreal stuff, Noel Fielding pretending to be the
mm.
moon. Remember that? I pretended to be the moon just like Noel Fielding did. Yeah, it was great. So there was that, but there was also Scott Mills on the radio because that
Oh
was
yeah.
my kind of. I listened to Radio One to begin with, and Mum and Dad were like, "Oh no, none of that duff music." But um, you learn to rebel and not listen to Radio Two, and then listen to Radio One instead.
Right.
And Scott Mills was on, and he was really creative. Well, he still is,
Mm.
but
Mm. Mm.
it was him Chappers and Becky and Mark Chapman who presents like Match of the Day now, which
Yes.
is hilarious. But they always did like silly stuff. Like they went out onto this place which they called Stupid Street, and they asked silly questions to people on a street,
Mm.
and comedy came out of that. So yeah. What else did they? I remember they did something with cupcakes. They had disgusting cupcakes or something, and
Right.
I was
Right.
listening. I was like, oh, hang on a minute, the radio can be like that.
Mm.
Fantastic. And it's just like and the funny stuff I like, and it all kind of
Right.
um married together and shaped my passions for stuff growing up and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Well, it reminds me, I mean, growing up, it was Steve Wright on Radio One, I think in the
Mhm.
late 80s and they would do things. They had these like, I remember they had like they got the Dalek voice modulator and so the one who smelt it, dealt it. And they were just like,
Yeah.
they would just be mucking around with stuff. And I kind of in between the songs. And I absolutely loved that. And I do remember there was a student radio at Leicester University when I was there. And that like, so again, there were again a bit like stand up. There were some friends who were doing it who seemed to be really amazing at it, and I would kind of go in and kind of try and do it, and then not really know what I was doing. And it's sort of yeah. I mean, radio is always but again, it's sort of actually yeah, very very similar to I just sort of thought, oh right. You need to have a particular skill set to do this, and if
Yeah.
I didn't believe in or didn't understand that you could develop towards it. It's interesting just also to mention we've had Helen Wilkes on the podcast, and she I was actually on her show on she does it's based at what's it called, Anglia Ruskin
Oh yeah.
University has I think it's Radio Cambridge. And so I was she does a happy hour and she has like a comedian, which in my case, and we sort of chat in between the songs and so on,
Yeah.
and it was great fun. And what was really interesting to bring it back to the you mentioned podcast versus radio is it was fun doing this live thing, and we had like one or two listeners who were like sending in emails as we were doing it, and there was the sort of visceral liveness of it. And I think compared to when I tried it at Leicester University, I was much more relaxed, and it was great fun. But then it was kind of weird, like okay, this is only allowed to be online for 5 weeks, and then it's got to disappear. Do you know what I mean? There's a weird thing in this sort of because podcast has become, and I mean, all shout out to, I mean, it's Spotify's creators app that has made. I mean, I in the past, I mean, like 5 6 years ago, tried to do podcasts and had it all seemed to be so complicated. It's now become incredibly streamlined. And I'm making these podcasts as we're doing today right now, and then that's up and it's sort of available for there and evermore. And it's kind of a weird I mean, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
There are
what's going on there? You must have opinions about
Well, there are two
about
different
this.
types of podcasts because I mean it's interesting you say about the kind of perpetuity of it. And yes, you can put a podcast on and it can stay there forever. And being a comedian, I've listened to the comedian podcast, and I've
Good
been
Goldsmith, yeah.
going all the way back to the beginning.
Right.
And hearing these chats with all these people like James A. Caster and Sarah
Stuart
Millican and
Lee and yeah,
Jason
amazing, isn't it?
Manford when they were kind of early on in their career, not necessarily when they were just starting out, but
Yeah.
you get a wonderful sense of history there, and it's fantastic for archive stuff. But on the other hand, there are a lot of podcasts nowadays designed to be like radio shows with no music in a way that,
Mm,
for example, would you ever listen to newscast a year ago? I mean, probably not, would you? You listen
mm,
to it on the day, and there are a lot of kind of day specific stuff, a lot of sports podcasts, a lot of news podcasts that are just
right.
kind of cashing in on the kind of podcast industry and the esque of it.
Right.
But that staying power, it kind of gets irrelevant. The Traitors series, Traitors Uncloaked, that's a visual podcast. It's basically a TV show, but
Right.
if you've watched episode 6 of The Traitors, you probably don't actually need to listen to episodes 2 of Traitors Uncloaked because they're reflecting on something that was on episode 2 rather than episode 6. So
Right.
I think that it's twofold, really. You get some
Mm,
podcasts that are work brilliantly, in perpetuity, and they can be wonderful kind of files of history, can't they, and
right. Right.
stuff. And then you get kind of ones that are only relevant to that day. Having said that, I'm sure like newscast archive is fascinating. Listen to people in 20 years' time,
So, yeah, there's a kind of a
Um,
weird thing where it kind of like, stuff that they've talked about this. I think, news and information is like fresh and it's like really right now, and then it becomes not very valuable. But then
yeah,
as time goes on, and then you aggregate it together, it can become very valuable again. But no, that's a really interesting distinction that
mm,
you make there. I mean, it's interesting when you mentioned the podcast industry. I mean, I sort of assume, not knowing, I sort of assume that a bit like professional sports and indeed professional comedy, that the number of people who are making a living out of podcasting is relatively small. Like there's probably like the Joe Rogans and I've forgotten his name now, Mark, who does WTF, famous comedian that my brain. But
Mark, yeah,
there are some like very like high profile podcasts who've had like he had like Barack Obama on the Mark Maron, that's his name. Um, but I suspect I sort of imagine that it's a relatively and similarly like with YouTube famous YouTubers and what have you. There's a relatively small number who are doing extremely well. There's a slightly larger number, but not. And then there's a big kind of diaspora that they're just sort of doing it as sort of hobbyists. I mean, it sort of almost feels a bit like doing the podcasting for me. A bit like when I was growing up, there was CB radio was kind of a
yeah.
thing that people did, and they could like talk to people in other parts of the world and this, that, and the other. I mean, I guess just for thinking about it from the comedian's perspective, I mean, I think the thing about having done, Helen Wilkes radio show, that was fantastic. And, I wanted like people to come and see me and be aware of my stuff. The fact that it then becomes that it goes away and I can't then share it, it's like I think for a comedian, the value of appearing on
Yeah.
a podcast seems to have more bang for the buck than actually appearing on a radio show. Although I guess
Yeah.
that's probably. I mean, you were talking about how for Radio Norfolk you were having this sort of Friday thing, and I guess you'd have people who are appearing in like was it doing humor comedy? I guess the people who are they're appearing that night or whatever that weekend,
Yeah, yeah.
and so actually getting on the radio that day might help bring a few more people into the comedy club that weekend. So it's
And that's why radio and comedy can be super different when it comes to that medium. So it's all about the here and now. It's all about it being instantaneous. It's all about being there in the present time. So
yes,
anyone can listen to it whilst they're driving or something, and something pops on, something that they might not necessarily pick out themselves, and they'll be like, oh, what's going on there and stuff like that. So and I think that's kind of the main error. I think when I was doing student radio.
mm,
And radio to begin with, I put loads of effort crafting these kind of comedy things and da 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 da, which comedy is meant to be kind of here's a trade secret repeated. We don't say different things every night. Sometimes we have we have our kind of our greatest hits, don't we? We have our
right.
set list of jokes and things like that.
Yeah,
And
I must get
I
one of those.
was
But
kind
yeah,
of yeah. I was putting things together for these radio shows that I was putting so much care and effort into it. Whereas with radio, it goes like
Right,
that.
right, right.
As soon as you've done it, you can repeat stuff. You can listen again after 30 days and things like that. But you need to bear that in mind, and you
Mm.
also like once it's done, you need to move on to the next thing.
Mm.
There's so still working for Radio Norfolk. The breakfast show is an intense show to work for. They've got to basically look at they do a top story, they do a second story, they do
Yep,
lots of different things. So they set up the show, you set up guests, you say, can you go on here? You're virtual, come into the studio, come on this Teams link and things.
yep,
And
yep.
all the guests come forth and then you do your show and they do all the features. They do it. And then the late producer kind of comes at 10 a.m. when the show ends. He's like, "Was that a good show?" Anyway, and the producer's like, "Yeah, that's good. Right, here's what we need to do
All
today." And
over
then it
again.
all starts
Yeah.
again. It's just revolving. It's revolving. So
Yes. Yes.
it's like an escalator, isn't it? It's you go
Well, it's
from
like
one end to the
pushing
other,
a
and then
boulder
it
up a
kind of
hill.
goes under. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. Just endless round and round and round. But potentially great fun. I mean, it makes me think. I was watching the Gary Shandling documentary about his life and about the process of like making these nightly TV shows that they do so much in the US and so on. Yeah, I mean, amazing. Well, and you've still got your foot in both worlds. I'm interested to take you back. Obviously, you did the comedy course, Martin Westgate. You sort of having second thoughts when you were going into it, and it sounds like it was, as many of the people we've had on the podcast, and indeed myself, did a comedy course, and then there was a showcase show at the end, with
Yeah.
friends and family, supportive audience, and that sounds like that went well for you. Just to sort of zoom in on that, you kind of like over the course of the course, you developed sort of 5 minutes, and then you did that as part of the showcase show. When it came to the showcase show, were you was it heart in the mouth? Tell us about the feelings of that first time that you sort of stepped on stage to like properly do comedy.
Oh, okay. So everyone's taking the mick out of me backstage because I was just doing loads of unnecessary moving around. I was sort of revving myself up. I was waving my arms about. I was like, "Oh, come on!" With all this nervous energy, and
Yeah,
everyone was
yeah.
just like, "What are you doing that for, mate?" And then obviously, I was revving. Then I went up, and I was like, "Ah," and I did it. And then, I did my set, and it went good. And then I went back out, and I was like, "Yes, I achieved it." And then, you sit down there, and then you just you deflate a bit, don't you? And you go, okay, I'm normal again. Okay,
Right,
I've not
right.
got this weird excess energy. Really funny. But yeah, I had that a lot. I've been able to control that a bit more. But when I'm on stage, it's quite funny because sometimes, when you're constantly gigging, sometimes there are nights when you are in a bit of a slump and you're like, oh God,
Sure.
it's a tired day, isn't it? Or it's been a long journey. And you think, oh, how am I gonna do really well on stage here? And then they announce you, you go on, and then as soon as you're on that stage, the adrenaline comes on and you're lifted,
Mm.
and I'm quite a high energy act, and no one's accused me of not putting any effort in on stage. It's too
Mm.
much the other way, if anything. But then I'll go off stage, and then I'll do this sometimes. I'll just sit down and just be completely calm. So,
Mm.
and then back to kind of how I was before. So,
Right,
like,
right.
before you're like, "Ugh," on stage, and then out, and then,
Yes, there's
It's
a
like
little bit of
that scene in
go on.
Extras, Ian McKellen, when he's like, "Do you know how I play Gandalf?" And
Gandalf.
like,
Yes, yes.
Ian, you shall not pass.
Yes,
Ian,
yes,
see.
yes, 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 yes. Brilliant. Yes, yeah, and I think people have commented to me like often in the certainly in the early days at the beginning. Oh, you seem quite calm, and then I'm a very like on stage, and then actually, I mean, I do get back down. I think after, but often for me, the coming down off, I'm like, particularly if I'm emceeing or what have you, if I come off stage, I'm still in this kind of like host mode for like another half an hour. And like so, talking to people afterwards, I can still be a bit too much. I'm pretty much always too much, but yeah, but it sounds like you did the first one and you loved it. I mean,
Yeah,
the first experience was wonderful, and you said, "I want to do more of this," and then it was like, right, you wanted to do as much of it as you could, and you were sort of, I guess you were sort of seeing it as a kind of, I've been comedy adjacent. I've been hearing about lots of comedians, whatever. I want to try out what this thing that other people are doing, and then having done it, you were like, this is great, and I mean, I guess you still probably it's radio that's paying the bills. I mean,
yeah.
like. how would you contrast the feelings that you get doing stand up in front of a live audience versus a live radio show? Is one better than the other? Are you thinking, oh wow, now I've got my foot in the comedy door? Perhaps that can be a career path, or how are you thinking about it all going forward?
Yeah, so I mean, it is so different, and I think when I started the second gig, I remember just thinking, what am I do? What is this then? What am I doing? I was saying to other because there were a few from the comedy course that went on to do the second gig in Norwich in this bar called Pogue Mahones, and that's when it's the first proper gig, isn't it? And
Right, yeah,
and I just said to everyone, I was like, what are we doing with our life? We could just be at home watching telly here. What are we doing this?
yes.
Um, but the more you get ingrained in it, the more engulfed you get in it. Um, there's a reason why people do it. You're always warned about how hard the graft is, and you're not going to get
Mm,
paid gigs until years upon years. And if you're thinking about going pro, it's such a long road, and
mm, mm.
those types of things are anything to make someone put them off. But um, doing the thing is so fun, isn't it? It's so you
Mm.
get so obsessive with it, don't you? So,
You
and
do.
think about what type of jokes you can do as well, and making a joke and then realizing it works. And I like to play little games on stage, like I did with radio features. Really,
Right.
I was used to kind of come up with funny little things that would be funny on the radio. That kind of works on stage as well if you alter it slightly, and
Yes.
it means you can come at stuff with a different angle. And, you then get kind of lost in it and ingrained in it. And, it's third year in now. So I've
Yeah.
done two
Yeah.
years. And, I kind of, because I did it in November and it took a while to get going, I kind of
Yeah.
go, right, January is the, start of the year, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So beginning the third year, and it's just continued to be fun. And there are always new surprises. It hasn't got stale at all yet. Um, and that kind of comes again from writing new jokes and coming up with new things and finding out who you are on stage as well. I think
Mm.
doing radio first and then doing comedy, I was given time to kind of figure out who I am,
Mm.
and who you are is really important in both
Mm.
mediums. When I was doing
Mm.
radio, as there's such a temptation to be the slick DJ from Capital or Heart, or the stereotypical commercial slick DJ, and that does you no favors at all.
Mm.
And I was always kind of like, who am I? Who am I that I should present myself on these airwaves to? And I've got a better idea of that. Um, but now I'm on stage and things, and it does help, I suppose, that you get live feedback on a stage. Whereas in radio, you're just talking to yourself, aren't you? Really?
There's definitely something about the immediacy of the feedback that's very, very attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many other things, you're kind of left wondering, well, was this any good? But just out of interest, that second gig, then, and as you say, particularly having done a comedy course, going and doing a gig then in, that's a different kettle of fish. How did that
Yeah.
second gig go? Was that, like more difficult? Actually, it was storming. How
It's
did how did
always, yeah, I think it's always going to be worse, but it went all right. It went all
Okay,
right. It
brilliant.
was it was a bit of a weird bar, but I did it and I was like, oh, I got through this one. Brilliant. Well, hey.
Yes.
I was given a chance to do a gig in a bigger venue a bit later. I think for
Mm,
my third gig, I got my first heckle in a pub,
mm,
and that was a bit of a rowdy audience. So but still have fun. I was like, oh yeah, just continue. I then did a big venue with lots of people in it, and then that's when I realised, oh, it's really hard. This really, really blooming hard. And then I had a bit of a kind of deflation moment where I was like,
uh,
can I can I do this? Am I meant to do it? But then
mm,
you kind of learn that you just have to write loads and then do loads and practice loads, and then you know I kind of do stick with things. I'm not the type of person to give up that easily when
mm.
something. And this is kind of the new creative endeavor as well, kind of beyond what I was doing, with the radio as well. So, I'm not going to back down easily,
No.
not near Nelly, but
Yeah.
so that's what I did. And it's great when it all works out and you get that feedback, especially when the crowd's nice and big and juicy, and you get a big go, oh, and you think, oh, brilliant, that's what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing, that's what I'm
Yeah.
doing, which is great. And on the radio, of course, um, it's this is another difference. You're always taught to say that you're on the radio to one person. You're not broadcasting to
Right.
thousands of people.
You're
You
talking to
say,
one person.
hello, how are you? I've got some, I don't know, Sabrina Carpenter
Yes.
to play for you, not for all of you. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Whereas,
Right. Right.
whilst you're on the stage, you're like, hello, hi, how are we all doing? And
Right.
stuff like
Right.
that.
Right. Yeah, well, it makes me think. I mean, one, obviously, like for the listener, the one, I think we only have one listener on this show, so it's like just here. You got Sam squared here for you, Sam and Samuel, like here for, just for your, it's just for you. But it makes me wonder about doing that on the stage. It's like maybe I should just speak to each person individually or agree. No, I'm just going. But I'm
Well,
sorry.
I
You're gone.
suppose when you're doing that as an MC, thing is though,
Yes.
you're speaking to that one person, you're finding out
Right.
about them, but everyone is kind of around, and
Yes. Yes. Yes.
everyone is aware. Like that audience member is very aware that the whole audience is
Yes.
watching
Yes.
them, and you're very aware that. So you're almost kind of, I mean, some MCs do it, don't they? They kind of show off to the audience when they're kind of chatting to someone or something like that. There are different types of MC,
There's
aren't
different
there?
styles, absolutely, and then
Yeah.
it can part of that. Yes, like because most people are nervous talking in front of a group of people. Making it into just like creating the feel of it's just a one-to-one conversation is part of like the skill of some MCs, isn't it? To then get the person to reveal
Hmm.
something that can then be used for comedic effect and presumably just love bombing rather than just destroying the pre-heckle, getting the retaliation in first. But it all makes me want to ask you a question. If you basically had unlimited money, or somebody was willing to give you a little money, would you rather spend all of your time doing radio or all of your time doing stand up or some sort of strange combo hybrid of the two?
Oh, hello. Right, okay. So this is basically I'm set for money. I'm all fine, so I can do what hobby I can choose.
Right,
Is that what
right.
you're
But
saying?
you've got to
Yeah.
do it's you can't just lie on a beach. It's like, right, you're going to be paid either for stand up or for
I see.
radio,
Right.
or you could demand I want radio on Mondays and Tuesdays and stand up the rest of the week or whatever it happens to be.
Well, well, the thing is, if you're a famous face, if you're a successful comedian, you get a radio gig, a la,
Right,
Ramesh Ranganathan, Rob Beckett, you
right.
get these comedians on the radio doing slots because I
Mm,
feel like I found that wanting to be a radio presenter, it kind of helps if you do other stuff as well, not just
right.
radio, because
Yes.
um, Ronan Keating is, I don't know, well, he was at least, and maybe he still is, the Magic Radio breakfast show host, and he was in Boys Home, wasn't he? And
Right.
you get all sorts of people from all
Right.
walks of celebrity life. So I could kind of cheat it in a way, but I'd definitely go comedy first
Right.
um, and do it that way. I think, um, yeah, I'd really, because of course, comedy demands a lot of time, but it also demands a lot of creativity. And I think
Yes.
um, some people are wired just to think wonderful, and they have scatty kind of creative ideas going on in their head all
Mm,
the time. And if I had unlimited money, oh yeah, I could just get lost in those thoughts, couldn't I? Oh
yeah.
yeah. But one thing I will say is working in radio gives a bit of structure to my life, and
Yes.
also
Yes.
a bit disciplined, because sometimes you can just lounge around at home if you've got a day off and you think, oh, I need to come up with a joke here. What do I do? What
Yes.
do I do? And the more you live life as well, the more stuff you can draw upon as well. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
there's no good answer to that question, I'm afraid, because in order to be a good comedian coming up, I think it works well to do other stuff to begin
Yes.
with, definitely. But, comedian full time, wouldn't that be lovely?
Yeah, well, no, but it answers my question as much as I think it sounds like the thrill that you get from a live performance is like, you would, given a choice, you'd have more of that rather than necessarily, an unlimited additional amount of radio time. I mean, it is a weird question. I mean, in some ways, like for me, if someone was put to me like, would you rather be, like all comedy or all podcasting? I think given a choice, well, it's a difficult one because actually, you know, I love doing podcasting and being able to talk to other comedians about the process and the all this, that, and the other is you know you want a combination of things, and I think yeah, somebody who's only ever doing stand-up comedy and never having any other life experiences is going to struggle to do stand-up
Yeah,
comedy.
I
But
think I think especially in the modern world we live in, with AI taking all of our jobs and all sorts of that, it's never been more handy to have multiple
multiple,
skills and
yeah,
to have your
absolutely.
fingers in lots of different pies. Not spreading yourself thin, mind, but if you can
Oh yeah.
do lots of different things, it's such a help. So I work with the sports show. So today, on
Mm,
the day
mm.
recording, I was just been doing little technical bits for Norwich City's latest match. They've just lost against Stoke, but
Ew.
we had a lively phone in, so that was good. And then helping out the breakfast show next week, and reading out some sport bulletins the other week. So you've got to be not funny there. You've got to be journalistic, haven't you? So,
Right, right.
but it all goes hands in hands, and being able to chat to people, and that works kind of. You kind of get to know what people are like, and then when you're on stage, you're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
this has helped. My life experience has helped me be on stage.
Yes, no, and I think particularly in the creative, yeah, I mean, it's great to have a mix. I mean, maybe this is kind of like another irrelevant tangent, but I'm sort of it's interesting because like you were saying, like there's a whole this radio is changing and it's being restructured and it's becoming more regional rather than local and so on. And was that just like, and that you were talking about life-changing circumstances? Was it that basically they were saying we're going to use you for less out, you had more free time? Was that was sort of the change that although you were still working within the context of Radio Norfolk, basically it wasn't going to be as quite a supportive, quite as full time a gig as it used to be. Was that the change?
Well, so I had a contract, I had a job, and there's loads of complicated things to do with. You could opt for forms of redundancy if you could, that
Oh,
you could be moved around different things, you could apply for different sort of things. So it was very complicated. But basically, the idea is that they wanted to make more kind of online content, like articles and things like
right.
that. So um, the news journalists who are kind of broadcasting on the news, for example, and they're doing bulletins on air, there was more kind of jobs that transformed from that to right. You're going to write an online article now, or you're going to decide
Uh,
you're going to be a reporter or something like that. So it's just a reshaping basically, and my job was kind of didn't exist anymore. So I just had to think, right, okay, what can I do? And then I basically became freelance. That's
right, you
all. And
became freelance, and then right, and then it's sort of
yeah, it gave me loads of freedom to do comedy. When
right.
being freelance and doing comedy, you don't get as much money, but
No,
it's a good way of doing it for me.
right, but you still had the effectively the relationship with Radio Norfolk, and so you've been able to do freelancing stuff for them. Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we talked about the AI, we've talked about the radio. Is technology? That's our second question: is how is technology affecting your life and comedy? And as I often say, pen and paper is a kind of technology. It's an older technology. There's new stuff like that. There's AI models. Podcasting, radio. There's social media. Whatever. I mean, this is the question is sort of a thinly. I mean, I am very interested in technology, but I'm also very interested in your, how you manage your life and how you manage your comedy, how you come up with funny ideas and how you get them. Are you recording yourself? Are you busy using some sort of like weird? I'm not imagine like a robot that like picks things out of a hat for you. How does it? How is technology affecting what you do?
Yes, I use my robot butler Jeeves to come up with jokes for me. No, you know what? It's really simple for me. It's just the Notes app on my
Right,
phone.
right.
Thing is, because you see people with notebooks and pens, and
Mm,
they bring their notebooks on the stage and they go, right, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that.
mm.
For some reason, it just doesn't stick if I put pen on paper.
Oh, really?
Maybe I'm just, being a millennial, stuck to my phone. It just seems so handy, and it's on the go. And
Mm,
I've tried all sorts. I've got a laptop here, and I've got a Microsoft Word document, but it's just not as good as just putting it on your phone. And
mm,
so I have little subsections. I have little kind of I have comedy bits initial. So these are all my initial ideas and all the stuff like that. And that's where often everything just stays. And
mm,
then I've got a comedy nights notes. And that's basically where I kind of assign every joke a little word or something or a little phrase. And then on that comedy night, I'll write down or type down rather like the 10 kind of jokes through their kind of little word codes or their little phrases. And then I say, right, on that night, I've done that. I've got another night here. What am I going to do? And then that basically helps me kind of structure it so I know, right, I'm going to do a joke here, joke here, joke here, and I'm going to
Yeah.
try that joke again and maybe slightly work it differently and everything like that. So it forms in the kind of initial period. I then try it out in a night, and then kind of the rest is just kind of ethereal feeling. I've got kind of other notes, which is basically like needs editing and
Mm.
ready to go. But to be honest with you, I don't use them as much because I just, it's just the time and the effort kind of thing. And I've done something recently. I've come up with another note where I've just written all of the jokes I've made, all of the stuff that's down. And if I forget any jokes, well, you know what? If I've written that little phrase, I can probably get it back. And
Right.
yeah, and it's so I could be a lot more organized. I could, Excel it. I could have, put it on Excel. Could put it. I know someone who puts all their stuff on a Discord and it's brilliantly organized. But
Mm.
I'm, yeah, I like a very kind of simple,
Sure.
logical, practical way of doing things, and it's worked out so far. It's just just a notes app, which is
Yeah.
really cool. In terms of joke creation, though, um, that's just I mean, I know some comedians do a thing where they write three jokes, per day or three
Right.
ideas per day and do
Yeah.
that. I do not have the structure to do that whatsoever. I'm
Mm.
thinking about it all the time,
Right.
um, but I think if I did that, a lot of the stuff I do needs developing, and I just there's so many jokes I've written down on the kind of initial bit that I just haven't gone back to yet. And then if I
Right.
write
Right.
it through it, I'd be like, oh no, that was a good idea. I should have used that. I mean, a lot
Mm.
of it is pants, as we know. If you're a comedian, you write
Mm.
down loads of stuff that's absolute garbage, don't you? But
Right.
uh, yeah. So a lot of the thing is, I've kind of had success with jokes differently, of where I've just kind of manufactured it in a logical way. Of gone, I need
Mm.
this structure, I need to put it in this, and then I need to do that with it.
Yeah.
But there are some times where I've just had like light bulb moments
Mm.
where
Mm.
I've gone,
Mm.
oh, that could work,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so it's really frustrating because I've got some bits that I love doing and work brilliant with audiences. Most of the time it works really well.
Mm.
And I can't for the life of me remember how I made the joke.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
and
Sure.
you're like, oh no, if only I could have remembered how I made that one, then I could make other jokes using
Right.
that
Right.
method.
Right.
But I don't think it's that simple, is it? But
Mm.
so it's kind of just a very loose way of structuring
Mm.
in my comedy brain. And also kind of you add bits to jokes as well, don't you? When you edit
Yeah.
jokes and things like that. So um I will in the initial bit just add little kind of, I just say topper, don't you think we call them
Right.
toppers, don't we, when you
Yeah. Yeah.
add extra bits to jokes? So I put, you know, horse topper or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, and then I
Mm-hmm.
write just the line down and I know what I mean by that. But
Right. And I'm interested there in you're saying basically in terms of like storing it in the note. I assume this is in like an Apple iPhone Notes app or whatever it happens
yeah.
to be. That but yeah, so but rather than you don't tend to write the joke out in full, you tend to have had the idea and then you've kind of like when you've done it like I had these 10 that I did on stage, you've got each of them is identified by a word or a small phrase that kind of will generally unlock the full joke for you and so the
Well,
precise wording that you use on stage might vary a little bit from time to time.
not quite, actually.
Ah,
Sorry, I skipped an essential point, actually, and that is, when I have the idea, I do write it out word for word.
do you?
Okay,
Right.
and so I'm not the type of person to go on stage with a half idea and then do it. I could never do
Mm,
that. So I
mm,
write it down and I learn it, and I make sure I can perform it and I know it off by heart. And I think that
interesting.
basically gives me the best chance, that joke, the best chance of doing well on a night, no matter what the night and new material. I act like it is a show, basically.
Right.
I could be performing to two people in a basement. I could be performing to huge room. Doesn't matter. You got to
Yeah.
kind of do it the same because I mean, it's a bit weird when you're like, hello, everybody, when there's two people there. But
Yeah.
you kind of got people go to decide to go to a comedy night, and you got to give them equal treatment. I think.
Yeah.
Of course, they do sometimes pay a bit more, but yeah, but I think in order for a new joke to work well for me, because it's different
Yeah,
for all comedians, isn't it? But
yeah, yeah.
for me, I've got to give that joke full welly straight from the off. If it don't work,
Mm,
then I'll go back to it and then I'll kind of literally write it out and edit and type. And
mm,
seeing it on a, well, I say page on a on a phone screen,
sure.
written out like that very much helps. I'm quite into, not lyricism, sounds a bit arty
Mm,
farty, doesn't it? But the flow of it and
sure.
how words work with each other and what tone to give the word. It's not.
Right.
I don't do
Yeah.
this or anything, but some jokes, I'm like, I know exactly what to do with the
Mm,
intonation of the voice,
yes, yes.
and things like that. I don't have a joke that sounds exactly like that, by the way. But you say that's it's a lot more than just kind of going on stage thinking, oh, I wonder what's funny, and
Mm,
uh doing that. And the way you say a joke might not even be the difference in word, mightn't it? It might just be like the difference
emphasis.
in kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
effort,
The
pitch, or
the
emphasis or anything
pause
like that.
or these
Yeah,
things.
pauses. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think for like what I found was one of the things when I used to do amateur dramatics was the process of. I mean, I could learn lines, but I hated learning lines and I hated a bit. And then when I was first doing the comedy course, and I was trying, and I'd written some comedy thing, and then I was sort of memorizing it word for word, and I kind of hated that. And at the beginning, I was kind of like, okay, this is a joke, and I've sort of structured it this way, and I've got to this place now, which I might change from, which is that I feel like if I'm forcing myself to do it a particular way, then I'm kind of like I'm ratcheting up the pressure for me on
Yeah.
stage, and I mean, maybe I should be. I need to get over that pressure some way, but like I think for me, in order to be, I need to be loose and relaxed. And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
tend to, I mean, I now have, various jokes that I've done many times. And yeah, I tend to be like, I have them particularly now for my new show about Japan or whatever. I have various jokes that are like, okay, this was like the alarm clock joke. This is the Walt Disney joke or whatever it happens to be. And I try and avoid writing them down. What I did, and it's interesting you talk about comedians going on stage with their notebooks or whatever or their phones.
Mhm.
I'm pretty much always using all of my available phones to record to make
Mm.
sure that I have either an audio recording or a video recording or what have you. So I never have. I mean, I tend to often have pieces of paper or what have you in my clipboards. But yeah, and I then I kind of I don't know if this is the right way to have done it, but like, I sort of now I always listen back, I always watch back, and I kind of hear that joke again, and then I'm kind of like outsourcing to my unconscious mind to kind of like do you know what I mean? Like I mean, there was a period at the beginning where I'd like write out in exact text, and I'd sort of say, oh, I got a laugh here, and I got it was very very specific,
Yeah.
and I kind of like what I'm trying to do, I mean, whether this will ever actually work or not, but I'm trying to like maybe trust the perhaps greater ability of my unconscious or my sort of non-logical mind. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I love what you're saying about the tonality and the things of the jokes. I mean, it just what seems strange is about it's like it's so there's so much variation, from room to room and night to night, and
Yeah.
I don't I'm kind of confused about is it that joke will work just so because this intonation here is just right, or this, that, and the other? Or is it more to do with the comedian's adaptation of the joke to the given room in the moment in a way that they're almost not doing consciously? I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about really, but
No, no, no. It's that's why I think you need to gig incessantly, isn't it?
right.
It's you need to do a variety of nights. You need to do. It's not just quantity; it is the variety of the quantity
Yeah.
of nights, and different rooms, different areas, and learning how to kind of naturally adapt to it. Because yeah, you will get different reactions in all sorts of different rooms. It's not like yeah, it won't, stuff doesn't work every time, and comedy is just so yeah, malleable like that, isn't
Mm,
it? So
mm, mm,
malleable. But what I think having a polished kind of joke does for me anyway,
mm, mm.
is that gives me, or just having the good jokes to
Yeah,
store. You've got a good
yeah,
kind of arsenal. You've got an armory
yeah,
of jokes.
yeah.
They're your kind of, your bullets, and then
Yeah, ammunition.
and then when you
You've
go on
got,
stage, you're
yeah,
and then kind of, you've got the equipment, you've got the apparatus, and then when you're on stage, then you've got to use it in a certain way, haven't
right.
you?
You've got to adapt in the
Um,
moment. Yeah,
and stuff changes, doesn't it? It does
yeah.
change, and if you know something so well, I think
Mm.
then I find you can work around it
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a good way. So I was doing a kind of rhythmical thing on a stage once in Soho, lively crowd and stuff, and some people started like clapping along, but they weren't doing it in time. So I completely abandoned what I was doing because it was that kind of thing where I have to kind of go full flow with it.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
stopped it midway and I was like, mate, if you're gonna clap in time, please. And then it was just like,
yeah.
you sort it out, and everyone was like, you didn't clap in time, did you?" And stuff like that. And then I started again, and it was and the audience were kind of with me in that respect. So um that was one time where I just, let spontaneity work. And this was taught to me nice and early, actually. I just bombed a gig, and this guy called Alex Freimuller, who's very responsive to the
Mm,
crowd.
mm, mm,
He
mm,
says, yeah, it is very interactive. It's kind of
mm.
it's that kind of relationship you have with the audience, that you're on stage,
Yeah.
but you're kind of tied together by a metaphorical string to their responses. And you've got to almost be able to tell what the audience are thinking. Because if
Mm.
you do that, that gets a laugh in it.
Yeah. If you can
It's
say the
something.
unsaid thing,
Yeah, yeah,
but
if something awkward's going on, then and you ignore it, then the audience can be like, "Mm, well, that's happening, isn't it?"
yeah.
But if a comedian can go, "Oh yeah, well, that's happening, isn't it?" And then everyone's
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, yeah, it
Yeah,
is
he
happening, isn't
knows
it?"
it too. We're all here together in the
Yeah.
room. Yeah, yeah, no,
This is very
absolutely.
much explaining the joke territory, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
explaining
yeah.
why it's funny rather than actually being funny. But yeah, that's what
I've heard
happens.
these
That's what
things
happens.
before. Yeah, yeah. And just out of interest, do you regularly record your gigs and watch yourself back and use that to kind of
Oh
like,
yeah, oh yeah,
yeah,
everyone.
yeah,
If I can, I've got my little tripod which I pop on wherever I can, and so it's not perfect all the time, but I think it's good because and I watch back and I cringe, and I go, yay, that worked, and all sorts, and it's a painful process, but it helps so much and is so necessary. And also, like, I think, having said that, a lot of the stuff I do is completely directed to the audience as well.
mm,
So I do interactive bits with the audience, because basically that comedian Alex once said, "Oh, it's so interactive," and then I was like, "Oh yeah,
mm,
yeah,
mm.
maybe I need to put some interactive bits in."
Yeah,
Took it literally, and you get all sorts of different responses, and because you do loads of different nights, you get a sense of all of the different varieties of response you can get
mm,
from one
mm-hmm,
bit of
mm-hmm.
interaction or joke or something. So then you've also got in your mind, right, how do I react back to that? So you've kind of got an
Yes,
idea of all the possibilities that might happen.
yes.
The comedy multiverse of your
Absolutely right.
material.
You've got a joke that's fundamentally got some heft to it, and then you've done it in a hundred different ways, 200 different ways, and you can almost cat right. Okay, some crowds react here, and then almost you can give the appearance of because to then a brand new crowd who've never heard the joke before or
Yeah.
any of the different responses to it, they respond a particular way, and you can come back with something that makes you seem like a genius in the moment, and everybody laughs and they're very
He's
happy.
like, I'd
Yeah,
already thought of it.
yeah, no, no. This is just a
Which is,
hard graft.
but yeah, and also it doesn't kind of work well, is it? If you do this huge bit and it gets a mild response, and then you're stuck with what to do. And sometimes that's why writing toppers are really good. So if they don't
Yeah.
get the initial kind of big joke,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you've also got a tiny little bit at
Yes,
the end.
yes. You've got some
And
other
then they're
little
like,
grenades that you
"Way,"
can
and
throw
they
in.
like
Yeah.
that bit. And I've had that sometimes where I've had a bit of a normal laugh or
Yeah.
just a kind of mild
Yeah,
response to
yeah.
the joke. And then I've added something a bit on, and then it's like, "Way." And there are some nights where they really like the initial bit,
Yeah,
And
right.
that's even more bonus that you've got to kind of, so that's why you always got to kind of keep looking at your jokes and keep editing and
Yeah,
things like that, because there's always kind of more you can add or more you can edit to it in there.
absolutely, absolutely, brilliant. Well, thanks so much for sharing all of that. I guess I was just gonna like link into. Well, I was interested there that you were saying like that. Sometimes watching it back is kind of cringe. I mean, as a radio presenter, presumably you've spent a lot of time listening to the sound of your own voice, and you're quite happy
Yeah.
with the sound of your own voice. I mean, this is.
No,
Oh, you're not. Oh, okay. So
no, not at all. I hate it. I've got such a weird nasally voice. Someone sounds well, probably my brother actually said I sounded like Zippy from Rainbow,
yeah,
and
yeah. What a
no,
claim to fame. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Zippy. Yeah.
no, Zippy.
Oh,
Um,
Zippy. Bungle.
ask your dad
George.
and the
Sorry.
young listeners. But yeah, that's the thing because I did exactly the same with radio shows, which is more painstaking because you have to skip through all the songs and listen to all the links, so it's a
Right.
huge effort, real
Yeah,
huge
yeah,
effort.
yeah.
But I did it at the start and definitely did it in student radio because you have to kind of put together demos of your best bits if you want to get
Right.
anywhere, all sorts of stuff. And yeah, so and it's always super cringy because your voice is exposed. I think when you're watching yourself move about and speak,
Right.
that's all right because
Oh.
there's less emphasis on one thing, but on the
Mm.
radio, it was just that's what my voice sounds like. And oh yeah, I hated it, but I always did it because you got better by
Yeah.
listening
Oh no.
back.
Well,
And
the
just like comedy, yeah.
yeah. I mean, the majority of people we speak to absolutely find that very difficult. And a small number of other people are whatever screaming narcissists. I mean, I really love watching myself back, listening to myself back. I mean, I listen back to the podcasts during the course of the following week, but to try and get better and this that and the other. I just. It's not like I think I've got the most amazing voice or that I'm the most amazing comedian. I'm just fascinated, as I've talked about in the podcast many times. It's like a chimpanzee with a mirror. It's like, look, it's me. It's me. It continues to be me. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
why.
think
I'm just fascinated by it.
no, absolutely. Look, there are moments, a lot of moments where you cringe, but once you get you well, once you kind of do it for 10 minutes or something and you get in the swing of things,
Yeah.
then you get used to it. And I think then you kind of get that level of appreciation. You're able to positively criticize yourself as well as negatively, which is yeah, it's really good you can do that. Yeah.
Oh, you definitely need both ways round. I'm just forgetting. I have a list here of all the different people. I'm getting old and I'm forgetting the names of the people who've come on. But we had, oh gosh, Philip Reese was on, and he's been in kind of like not radio, but like sort of some telemarketing for many years. And he
Yeah.
was just saying like, as a result of that, even though he didn't never liked listening back to himself, just doing it for many years, he got bad, and it's now not a problem for him, which I think it is. It's a
Yeah.
great thing.
Yeah.
You can, and just also on the technology thing, social media. I mean, is that like are you busy putting yourself out there on social media because the received wisdom is now that's how you climb the greasy pole of comedy? Any strong feelings about the current social media? Should we have it banned? Should we regress to the dark ages?
No,
What are your
no.
feelings there?
We should go back to MySpace, where we all have profile
MySpace.
pages with dedicated songs. We'd have
Brilliant.
embarrassing song choices, and we had a top eight of friends. That's no, we should do that. Oh, my MySpace account was it was nuts. Oh, it was all over the place. It was really cool. Oh yeah, me and my mate made a fake MySpace profile called is it Boris the Breadfish, and we made a little paper model, Boris the Breadfish, not after the former prime minister, just
Yeah,
B and
just
B
general.
in it. So Boris the
Boris is everywhere.
Breadfish, and yeah, he had his own special account, and he sent friend requests to all people in school, and we confused loads of people there. But my one as well, I did some kind of surrealist Mighty Boosh level kind of.
Mm.
Well, I say Mighty Boosh level, definitely not big as good a quality, but
Inspired.
just yeah, surrealist monologue for my profile thing, and I put loads of weird effort into it, and we did picture comment for picture comment, but yeah. See, that's social media right at the start, though, isn't it? And then
Mm.
came Facebook and all sorts, and um, I can't believe Facebook survived as long as it has. It's still going strong, isn't it?
I
It's
guess so.
mad, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's
Um,
interesting. It feels maybe starting to be eclipsed by Instagram. I don't know that somehow.
yes, but it still has a place, and that's the thing. It's not
Mm.
necessarily getting. usurped just quite yet. But the thing is,
Mm,
we talk about social media being new. It's just quite old now, really.
yeah.
But there are a lot of new kind of endeavors, and
Mm,
so it went from. I think it went from messing about on MySpace to I think YouTube being a thing, and obviously that was huge, and the kind of vlogs and the media kind of
mm, mm.
went from that, and then you got Twitter, which was huge because you get loads of comedians feeling the need to write loads of jokes just for Twitter and writing loads of
Right.
one-liners every day, and that's whoa, that's loads of comedy you've got to come up with, isn't it? And then I'd write tweets that would get 4 likes, and if I was
Yeah.
lucky, and all that kind of rubbish.
Yeah, absolutely. I relate to that.
I found that hard, and when I was doing radio, of course, you put stuff on Twitter and stuff,
Yes.
and then Instagram came as well, and now it's all suddenly it was all about pictures, wasn't it? And
Yep. Yep.
still images. And I thought, "Oh, that's a bit limiting. Why are we liking
Mm,
this?" But people like looking at stuff, don't they?
mm.
That's what they do. Um, and then of course came COVID, and then came TikTok, and I think that's absolutely blown everything out the park, isn't it? And you just the kind of structure and the form of the short form media that they've um, penned. It's been so good. You can tell why it's so good because Instagram have stolen off it.
Right.
Instagram has become
YouTube Shorts.
Instagram
Yeah,
Reels,
they've all copied
and even when
TikTok format.
when you scroll down, you got loads of you see less just still pictures anymore. It's now
Yes,
just kind of
yes.
that. And then on Facebook as well, Facebook Watch, I
Reels.
think, or whatever, but it's just
Yeah.
Facebook, isn't it? And then you see it, and then YouTube have gone from YouTube Shorts as well, and then
Yeah.
so basically they've seen TikTok, and that's the thing. So um, I'm desperately trying to get into the thing, but I think you got to be ready as a comedian if you want to do TikTok videos and things like
Yeah.
that. I've used my first 2 years of comedy to kind of get accustomed to it, and I'm kind of just beginning that journey now. But it's keeping up with it. You've got to be so consistent, and you got to be as relentless with it as the gigging, don't you? So in the first 2 years, I've kind of gone Instagram. That's the kind of
Yeah.
right. I'll take pictures of all me going anywhere just to show people that I'm gigging and show people,
Right,
and
right.
trying to be mildly funny, mildly humorous on every post. I'm not just saying, I went to this gig and I went to this gig and I went to this gig and I went to this gig.
Right.
It's a kind of a bit of that of the diary, the kind of like diary of life as a comedian, which people
Yes,
do.
yes.
You know, people are always but I think um I think it's just nice to give just an extra little dimension, and that's what social media does. And TikTok will do that, and then you can post them on all the stuff and do that. I did my first. Did I do my first? Well, I did one like a year ago ish, and now I've just posted another one of a kind of like an audience interaction moment, and that
Oh
helps
yeah.
when you're filming all your gigs. You've got kind of you can collate a few videos. So um, there's that, but there's also kind of sketch writing you can do, and I think something that TikTok works really well is not just audience interaction bits when you do your comedy, not just like your best jokes,
Yeah.
but also kind of like sketch writing and stuff. And
Yeah.
you can be creative in that way. But I'm very conscious of not posting a load of rubbish on it and
Yeah. I
making
mean,
it
I'm
and doing it.
go on.
Yeah, I'm doing it properly because I think weirdly the millennial generation are playing catch up on the generation before because this is it's very much a Gen Z thing. TikTok or started out as a Gen Z thing,
Mm,
and it took a while for all generations to kind of get involved with this kind of format, whether it be on
mm,
TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram, or whatever like that. And then you've kind of got to learn how to edit a short form video, and that is all of a sudden the kind of way to go, not just in comedy, but in just
mm,
the
mm,
whole
mm,
of the media form. And you've got to be good at it. And I didn't grow up with it, so it wasn't the
mm.
most important thing. The most important was Twitter going into Instagram. So
Yeah.
I'm most comfortable on Instagram, but it's one of those things. It's like, right, come on now, granddad, let's learn how to do a reel. Let's learn how to do a
Yeah.
TikTok. Let's do captions and stuff like that. Put captions on your video and make sure that video is no more than a minute long and
Yeah.
things like that. And you've got to be good with it. And I think it's one of those things you're going to learn as like a skill, just like stand up. I've done more than 250 gigs now.
Mm.
I'm going to have to do that in
Yeah,
TikTok.
is it? Yeah, I mean,
250 TikToks. Here we go.
yeah, I mean, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to get into it. It feels a bit like
See, that
those.
is what
Oh, gone.
loads of people say though, isn't it? It's like, well, it's what I've said it many times. Like, oh, I really should do more. We really should do more. And the
Mm.
life does get in the
Mm.
way, doesn't
Mm.
it? That it's one of those things that, oh yeah, oh I'm so bad with that. Oh, I'm so. We always say that, but it's just the kind of it's a cool possibility that you can get involved in and
Yes, yes, and
view it as more of
go on.
a potential positive thing you can do rather than something you have to do and you're terrible if
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that it's, clearly it can like take off for some people. What it reminds me of a little bit is if those sort of machines at the seaside where they have all the two Ps, and you're putting the things in, and it seems like, oh, there could be this big payout, but
Yeah.
actually it's maybe kind of rigged again. I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
It's
come back
right.
to, maybe in 2 years, I don't, when I've blown up on TikTok
Any
and
arcade machines at the seaside are rigged, by the way. I went on one and like they've just I swear there's a way of them getting the big prize just teetering on the edge.
that's
And
right.
no
Well,
and it's always like nearly knocked over, isn't it? But you never
it's
quite get
always
there.
no. Well, I've worked out they've got holes on the side, so a lot of stuff gets pushed into the back, and then actually the majority of them are falling off,
I see,
depending on
yeah.
the thing. I think is the trick. But
I've never wanted a rubbish car toy more than when I'm at a Chroma Seaside Penny
absolutely,
Arcade.
absolutely, absolutely. Time is rushing on. You mentioned lots of people already. Our third question is, people. Are there any other people you want to give shout outs to who've had a big impact on your life and comedy? You've mentioned many so far. This is just a quick, check for any other big influences that you wanted to mention.
Oh, what, in terms of local scene, more like famous people that I've.
I think both ways round. I mean, whether it
Okay.
was a famous person who inspired you or a person on the local scene. I mean, I think you already mentioned, Martin Westgate doing the course. You mentioned
Yeah.
Scott Mills on the radio. You've mentioned a lot of people. Yeah, if you've already covered them, fantastic. But it's just, yeah, if there's anybody else, who shouldn't be, we shouldn't miss. Like, it could be your parents, could be your brother, or who knows.
Oh, big up Dina and Rob, mum and dad, for coming to lots of gigs because
Mm.
the bringers are a thing in London, and being from Norwich, it's really difficult. So, and they live kind of in Hertfordshire and stuff, so they can't do every gig,
Brilliant.
but so I can't do many gigs like that. But sometimes I do them, and they're happy. And I was really nervous actually,
Oh yeah.
um, when I kind of performed in front of my dad for the first time
Uh-huh.
because it's weird kind of bringing your
Sure.
dad along to London to see you do stand up. And I think I was done like 30 I've done about 30 gigs at the time, and when I
Yeah.
did it, that is almost like a first gig of sorts that you have to.
Sure.
That's a first that you got to do. You got to perform in front of people,
Mm.
and when you do that and they like it, and you're like, oh, thank goodness for that.
Mm.
Thank goodness for that. And obviously, they're never going to be like, that was rubbish. And they're actually always going to be quite supportive, aren't they? But
I
but
think they are.
I'm really lucky to have really supportive parents actually who really like it. Mum really likes yeah, going to gigs as well. And they like
Oh,
going
great.
on a bit of an adventure as well, because it is a bit of an adventure going to these gigs, and
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to bars, but going to the basements of those bars. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would never ever take my dad to a pub in Kentish Town in normal life. A, because I
No.
live in Norwich,
Yeah.
and he lives in Arlesey
Yeah.
in like Bedfordshire. But
Yeah.
there we go. We take the train there, and there we go. And uh, yeah, and a lot of young people live in these London venues as well,
Yes, they
and I
do.
think
Yeah.
it's great and absolutely wonderfully refreshing that people of all generations can go to these London open mic night gigs and uh, see that. So yeah, mum and dad are very good there. I've got a lovely Christmas present. They got me this little T-shirt of
Mm.
a microphone on a stand. So yeah,
Oh,
I'll wear
brilliant.
that at some point. So that'll be cool. And
Oh,
also, actually, because I did my first gig in the Brewdog, the showcase was in a
oh, yeah.
Brewdog.
Right.
Other beers are available. But mum, because you know how like breweries do like these special beers.
Yes. Yes.
Last year, and it's not opened yet. I don't think I'm ever going to open
Mm.
it. Mum got me a special can, a Brewdog can that said Lucky Break on it. So,
Mm.
it's like, oh yeah, you could have your lucky break at any time. And you had it at Brewdog when you did your first
Woo!
gig. And I thought that's really nice. So
Oh, that's
that
lovely.
looking at that can of beer right now, it's just one of the many things on my cluttered cabinet. But yeah, that's really good. Yeah, it's
Oh,
next to the insect spray, but no, it holds a dear place in the heart.
brilliant. Well, that's lovely, and yeah, well, a huge shout out to you, to your mum and dad for supporting you. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I'm, sometimes I think about removing this question because people often, in their comedy origin story or what have you, they'll talk about. But I think it is, yeah, I think this enshrines the value of this question as we get to hear,
Yeah, and
a
I'm
wonderful family
also
story.
like half of each of them as well, and So I've probably got that comedy
Allegedly.
gene from somewhere, and they're both quite mad. So I think that's where I get it from, isn't it? So
We all big respect to parents out there everywhere. Um,
spreading your genes. Or
Indeed, so it's none of my kids want to do stand-up comedy. I'm not sure where I get it from, but my dad might be funny. Time marches on. Fourth question: drugs. How do they affect your perception of reality? And of course, by drugs, it's like substances of any kind. It could be like potato juice. It could be lemon juice. It could be, ADHD medication. Could be hard drugs. Who knows? I mean, do you find yourself, I'm just like to riff on a few previous people. We had Cam McKenzie talking about his addiction to caffeine, and other people, gosh, whose names I've now forgotten, talking about alcohol and cocaine and different things. But are you? There's no judgment here, and only what you want to share with us. But yeah, do you find you use substances of any kind to help you get through the day?
I'm a good little boy, Sam. I can't believe what you're insinuating, but no, I I mean, yeah, I don't yeah, I don't tend to. I tend to also be quite a sensible drinker as well,
Hmm.
only on special events, and especially when I do gigs, I don't drink before at all. Only
No,
like
me neither.
someone might, if I bring someone along and they might buy me a vodka and coke or something, I might have a bit of it, but there was the competition I did the stand up and deliver British comedy
Oh
gig
yeah.
thing was in a cocktail bar.
Mm.
Now that whilst that was also a challenge of the competition, that it was kind of like two for £14 cocktails. So
Right.
you bring someone along and you spend 14 quid and you'd have cocktails. But of course I'd be like, oh, hang on a minute, I want to be on stage, so I don't want to obviously, so I think for the first heat of that competition, I didn't have anything. I
Mm.
know I had a Coca-Cola. That's what I did.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
had a cocktail after I went on stage. So,
Mm.
and then and then for the final when I did it, it was so we're back at the same cocktail bar, and the person I brought along was really into cocktails, and so
Okay.
basically we bought the cocktails, but I caught up after. I was
Okay.
luckily first on, so I was really happy to
Brilliant.
be first on, and then just drink loads of cocktails after. So that's good. But yeah, usually I don't drink, especially before going on stage, because I I like being sober, and
Right. In the
I
moment.
don't think alcohol's ever improved my life to a level that and also like the taste is a bit. I think my bigger vice is my sweet tooth.
Oh, really?
I've got a massive love of chocolate. Can I talk about chocolate? I'm
Please tell us.
obsessed. Oh man, because right, I think it's like a reward, isn't it? It's like as soon as you've done a gig, you're like, oh, I've done very well there, especially towards the start of when I was doing it. I was like, oh, I've done such a thing there. What
Oh,
effort! I'm
yeah.
going to reward myself with some chocolate, and then
Ah.
I'd buy myself some chocolate, and then I'd do another gig, and I'd be like, oh, I did well there, and buy myself some, and it got into a bit of a habit, really.
Oh, really? And can
Yeah,
I
every
ask what
time.
particular kind of chocolate?
Oh my, there are all sorts, aren't there? I mean, I had a bag of M&Ms tonight because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
been Christmas, and I'm in the you get on a roll when you start eating chocolate,
Mm.
don't you? And you're like, oh yeah, and it's quite hard to stop eating chocolate once you kind of start.
Mm.
So you've kind of got to wean it off, don't you? So I've been naughty and had a
Mm.
bag of M&Ms today. But when you've done something, you think, oh, I've had a day, or I'm really tired.
Yeah.
Chocolate is very, very tempting. And, it's
Mm.
often those bars, those big bars like the Galaxy, the ones that, that are kind of
Right. the sort
the
of separated
standard
into
size.
squares.
Yeah, the
Like,
one where they suggest you share them, but of course you don't share them. So
no,
what is that, mate? The Oreo bits in the dairy milk, the Galaxy, the
yeah.
Tony chocolate only, because that's fair trade, or that's a bit too much. Have you got some chocolate there?
Yeah, they're not showing you my I have here special Wizards sugar-free, like almost zero cal no, it's not zero calorie, but it's like
Ah,
sugar-free Wizards chocolate that I've used. And then I have this is my like I have green and blacks organic white chocolate. I would love to find a white chocolate
white
that was sort
chocolate.
of sugar-free. But yeah, I mean I
Why sugar
recognized
free?
go, go on.
Why do you choose sugar free chocolate? Surely the good bit about chocolate is it's full of sugar and fat.
Well, I mean, it used to be back in the day. This is you may encounter this once you get a bit older. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was like, I mean, I'm not overweight by any stretch of the imagination. I'm quite lean, really.
But is the metabolism.
But they did flag me as being like in this pre-diabetic
Oh,
phase.
mate.
So I had this period where I needed to like kind of reduce calorie intake. And I mean, I have this thing. I'd never binge on chocolate, but I basically have with my coffee at about 11:30. I will, and you know, it used to be that I was like Green and Black's organic. I would have their dark chocolate, you know, what about I have 6 squares, the relatively
Yeah.
small squares at 11:30, and then after lunch at like probably like 2:30 or so, I'd have another coffee with 6 squares of the the white organic. And then part of the whole like controlling my sugar intake was okay, I managed to find this sugar-free chocolate for the morning
Uh,
session, but I still left it with the sugar in the afternoon session. But I'm also finding as I get older, my desire to eat sweet things has kind of is gradually fading
uh,
away. If I'm honest, I mean, I
uh.
can now sense I can sort of almost feel like I can feel the sugar in the the one in the
Feel it
afternoon.
swirling in your arteries.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, actually, I'd happily replace. But I've always, yeah, I've kind of, yeah, chocolate. I mean, I just remember what must have been like 10 odd years ago, working in the city and just like the points of the day where I kind of, oh, I need some chocolate, and that
Yeah.
it would be a pick me up at those times. And I've unlike with, I mean, I always struggle before. This is the problem with with coffee. I'd end up drinking too much coffee, or alcohol. I'd end up drinking too much alcohol, or smoking too many cigarettes, or what have you. The chocolate never quite, I would never binge on it, and I
Yeah.
seem to have managed to have it under control. But it sounds like for you, it was kind of like more so than coffee or alcohol. The
Oh, yeah.
chocolate's something that can
Yeah.
expand to fill the void. Is that right?
Chocolate does clag, so I mean, you're not gonna eat loads in one go. Like one Tony
Mm,
chocolate only bar is that's too much. That's too
mm,
much. You feel a bit
mm, mm.
at the end of it. But the thing is, you build up a bit of a kind of tolerance
Right.
for it. I think if you eat, so I've kind of, I've done like time. There have been weeks when I've done like 5 gigs in a week, and after every
Mm,
gig, oh, I've got to reward myself, so I have a chocolate, like
yeah.
everyone. And you think, oh, what am I doing here? And then it does get easier to eat. But I think I think in terms of managing it, because I'm getting better at it now, where
Mm,
I've
mm.
done like a new material night, and I think, look, this that's that's a normal night. I didn't really stress during it. Why am I? I do travel around a lot, so the temptation
Yeah.
grows there. But I'm beginning to wean off that temptation, and it's absolutely fine. And then
Good for
and I
you.
think
Good for you.
the more you go without eating a chocolate
Yeah.
or a form of chocolate or anything like that, the easier it is, and the less tempted you get by it. But
Yeah.
it is nice and sugary when you can do it. And Christmas has just happened, and
Which is a good time for
you
chocolate. Yeah.
Ferrero Rocher are lovely, aren't they? When you get them as a present, and it's only ever at Christmas or Easter, in it. But you can,
Yeah,
uh,
it is a
yeah,
funny one. I definitely used to like them a lot. You may find this changes as you get. I mean, I find myself now after a gig, I can often find myself really hungry, but the last thing I want to eat is something sweet. I tend to like want to eat a sausage roll or like crackers or just I don't know.
yeah.
It's weird. It's weird.
You got to be careful with what you eat, and
Yeah,
uh, especially when you're kind of traveling around and stuff,
yeah,
because the hours are quite unsociable
yeah,
traveling wise, and I'm on like late trains back to Norwich, and I'm walking back, and you walk back all these these
yeah. And it's
places
not the
that
health food
get
shops that are open, is it?
oh
At that
no,
time.
no, you don't get Holland and Barrett open at 3
And
a.m.
not
on
that
the
people trying to force you to eat a
road in Norwich.
carrot. It's like, come on, we got a late night carrot, a bit of raw carrot. Come on, mate, got a bit of raw carrot in the back. Go
I
on.
mean, there are kind of snacks. I think, if you're feeling a bit peckish, sometimes I'll cook myself a boiled egg as a treat. I don't know. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like you kind of come up with different solutions. There was a
Yeah.
time where I was just eating loads of grapes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and just trying to be as fruity as possible.
Yeah.
And that was all right. And that kind of, and loads of cups of tea as well. I'm a massive
Mm.
tea drinker.
Oh, okay.
So, and I have one sugar in my tea.
Ooh.
But, well, if you have loads of cups of tea with one sugar in it, probably still better than a chocolate bar or something. Science can't prove that,
Well,
but
it's
that's in
mm,
my experience, it helps you kind of wean off the chocolate a bit. So that's good.
it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, just like when I was young, and this is probably from I was at age, like 12 to 20, that was,
Yeah.
absolutely sugar in tea was a thing. I mean, I think I remember I haven't had sugar in tea for absolutely ages. I think there was something that some dentist was saying to me. Oh, this is probably in America. If you're drinking the tea with the sugar in it, like it sort of hangs around your mouth for quite a long time. Anyway, it's got late. We should build. Thanks so much for sharing your own little viices there. Brings us to our last question. What does it all mean? This life, this universe, this everything. We spent so much time talking about. I think we've both. I just wonder, is there and this doesn't have to be the answer to life, the universe, and everything could just be like, what does life mean for you? But maybe there's a religious framework, maybe you're philosophical. It's are we living in a simulation? What do you think this is all about? This strange
I
world in which
don't
we live
think
in?
we're living in a simulation. I don't think. No, I
Yeah,
don't think it'd come up with this. I don't
it's
think
too
it.
strange. It's too strange for anybody to simulate it.
Yeah, it's like, you couldn't get AI to do anything like this, could you? But yeah, I think, yeah, it's weird, really, isn't it? I think because I've passed 30 years old now.
Mhm.
I look like a little boy, but I've passed 30 years old now. And you begin to kind of get a stronger sense of yourself, don't you? You get
Mm.
a lot more comfortable in your own skin. I think that's what I was talking about with doing the radio. Be like, who am I? Who am I? And knowing who you are is such a huge thing. And the more comfortable you can get with who you are and the stuff you like, and worry less about the stuff that everyone else likes and stuff, and
Mm. Mm.
stay true to, your own humor and your own kind of
Right.
personality. And then you find yourself surrounded by people who align with that, don't you? So I
Mm.
think just, yeah, that sense of self, knowing who you are, is a very important thing. I don't know if it'll sum up the life, universe, and everything, but I think maybe it'll just, yeah, ground you well a bit more.
Yeah. So, well, maybe I love it. I guess what we're saying, the meaning is finding out who you are.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, yeah. And I think, um, it's not an epic thing. You see, especially, we talk about social media and you see all these celebrities and all these things, always Hollywood, the pinnacle of society, isn't it? People in Hollywood movies and, getting that, especially in comedy as well, getting your comedy special. Do you ever want to go to
Mm.
O2 Arena and all sorts of that? And, they're great,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be lovely, but, I think we are sold a glamorous picture of life, aren't we?
Yeah.
Um, but that is not the be all and end all, is it? Really, it's uh, yeah, there's something a lot more tangible to life itself that isn't presented on your phone screen or on the internet, on the World Wide Web.
Yeah. I agree, and it's something I've been thinking recently. It's maybe less about the destination and more about the friends that you make along the way. I mean, I often sort of struggle with like where I'm getting to in comedy, but I've been very lucky to, I've now got a sort of a group who were helping me run a number of comedy nights, and actually I'm starting to realize, well, I'd still love to, perform the O2 and be like, world famous and be like an incredible, like other comedians saying, yeah, oh, we wish we could do the comedy that he does, or nobody else can do like Sam does. But I mean, there's absolutely that, I'd love that, but I think the really valuable thing is, the kind of like, fun hanging out with the comedians, collaborating on getting shows on and so on, and that's where the real value comes from, I
Yeah,
think.
and I think when I was doing the radio, I had this big life goal about being a Radio 1 DJ.
Mm,
ended up being quite an unhealthy thing because
Mm,
it was kind of one of those really, it's a really specific goal. There aren't many people who are in life who do that. There are loads of people who want to do that kind of thing.
mm,
I didn't
mm,
feel like I was going anywhere towards that life goal. And then when I picked up comedy, I
mm,
found out there are lots of different things I wanted to achieve and go for. And it's like, oh, this wonderful tree and all these branches I could go down
mm,
and explore. And that's the one thing that comedy gave me is lots of kind of wonderful things to aim for and aspire to, but also, like you said, enjoying the journey, like in doing a really good or having really fun in the next gig is almost like the precious thing, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. It's sort of, if you can't enjoy the sort of doing of the individual thing, the doing of the individual connection with that audience or that new person or that new comedian, like, what's the point in it? I mean, it's like who do all of this purely for some like delayed gratification in the future?
And and yeah, and another thing as well, talking about getting to know people as well. When you're on the open mic circuit, and I'm talking open mic circuit, really,
Mm,
not talking about the big time. Oh, I want to be a pro comedian. Like when you do loads of open mic gigs, you chat to all sorts of different people
you meet a lot of
from
different
all
people,
sorts
don't
of
you?
walks of life, and I think I'm really grateful for that. It's you can
Yeah.
get chatting to all sorts of people, and that's really healthy, I think.
Yeah, I think it's very good for your. Yeah, it's great to make these connections because it's so easy, particularly these days. Where your social media and the algorithms show you can be put into sort of a bubble, and the more you can break out and talk to all sorts of different people. Well, fantastic, Samuel. Sam Squared. So many people, great people called Sam. What are we going to do? It's been an
Yeah, I
absolute
know
pleasure.
we're great, aren't we?
Okay. I mean, really, maybe the new podcast should be only about only ever speak to other people called Sam. That could be interesting. But anyway, people, the one listener that we have will be, who's like basically been holding on and waiting to. They want to know where can they see more of your comedy, find out more about you. Where should people? Or indeed, this one listener, that's you, the one listening, you, John. What if his name was John? No, where should John go to find out more about you?
Hello, you, the listener, John. Well, if you want to follow me and varieties of John therein, yeah. So, well, I did say I was kind of mainly on Instagram to begin
Yeah,
with. So, yeah, I am on. I think Instagram's the main thing I do, and to be fair, I'm on Facebook as well. I'm
yeah.
Sam Day on Facebook, but Samuel Day Comedy on Instagram. So at Samuel Day Comedy on Instagram is where I post a few reels and kind of bits from the gigs. You can see photos from all the gigs I go to,
Yep.
and kind of like gig guides as well. I've just posted one of what I'm doing in January. So
I've got it in front of me here. Yeah, you're on the
oh,
fifth.
yeah,
You've got Christoph Epaminondas, who's actually just joined us on the Sunset team. WIP Kentish Town. You've got GMB on the 8th.
yeah,
Two
yeah, I
File
do,
Comedy
yeah.
on the 12th. I read it all out. Anyway, but yes,
St
absolutely.
Ives
So,
on the 17th. So yeah,
yeah,
Basement Japes in Dalston coming up. Yeah.
Candlemaker Comedy on the 18th. So yeah, clearly Samuel Day Comedy, the place to go. You can see all the upcoming gigs that Sam will be at.
But I've got TikTok as well. Just starting that. So let's see if that works.
Absolutely. Brilliant, brilliant. We'll get all links to all of those in the show notes. And well, thanks everyone for listening, and particularly you, John, because you're the main one.
Thanks, John. Yeah.
And remember, you could help support comedians on technology, people, and drugs by going to patreon.com/comedians on, where any level of support will help us to continue to produce this show. No one has actually, I don't know if anybody's been there. Does the site even exist? I mean, I've still got that in my notes to like say that, but I keep on saying, but no, we do have a Facebook group, so do follow us there. And we'd love to hear your comments, particularly you, John, questions. Or you can do those also on Spotify. But what we would, if there's one thing that you do, is do follow us on Spotify. Actually, if you can get like maybe 10 of your friends' phones, steal them, log in, get this thing and get all of like your 10 friends to follow us on Spotify. Apparently, that's the thing that will make all the difference to the algorithm, getting us up the rankings in Spotify. We're also, of course, on Apple podcasts as well. But we really look forward to being in your ears again soon. And it just behooves me to end the show by giving the last word to our fantastic guest, Samuel Day.
Okay, well, over Christmas I did have an entire box of Ferrero Rocher in two goes, two goes. It wasn't one go, I had two goes, and it was absolutely delicious. Hazelnut works really, really well with chocolate, just saying.